Morning, everyone. Welcome. I would like to start the meeting with the land acknowledgement. Recognize that the area we call the Fraser Valley Regional District has been home to Indigenous peoples for generations. There are 31 communities with reserve lands in the FVRD's jurisdiction and as many as 69 groups of interest in the area. We honor our commitment to collaboration and in our work here today and call to order the March 25th meeting of the Fraser Valley Regional District Board of Variance. So the first item on our agenda today is election of the chair of the Board of Variance, and I'd like to welcome our 3 new Board of Variance members. So it is my pleasure to conduct the election and to facilitate. I'd like to ask for a first call of nomination for chair of the Board of Variance. Thank you.
First call.
Who would you like to nominate?
I would like to nominate Rose. Rose Turcaso for chair.
Thank you. Rose, do you accept this nomination? Are there any other nominations for the position of chair? For a second time, are there any nominations for the position of chair? And for a third and final time, are there any other nominations for the position of chair? Okay, hearing none, I close the nominations and declare that there will not be an election and confirm that Rose Turcaso is elected chair of the Board of Variance. We'll now move on to election of the vice chair for Board of Variance. So I would like to call for a first nomination for vice chair.
I would like to nominate Paul Sidaway for vice chair.
Thank you. Paul, do you accept this nomination?
Yes.
Are there any other nominations? For a second time, are there any other nominations for the position of vice chair? And for a third and final time, are there any other nominations? No. Hearing none, close the nominations and there will not be, and confirm that Paul Sidaway is elected vice chair of the Board of Variance. So Rose Turcaso, I'd ask that you would take over as chair.
First off, thank you very much. Really appreciate this opportunity. All 3 of us are very happy to be here and be a part of this. I might need a little bit of guidance. It's been a while since I was on the Cultus Lake Parks Board. So we've done the chair, the vice chair. I move that we have to make a motion for consideration that the addenda, and late items for the Board of Variance hearing of March 25th, 2025 be approved, and that all correspondence and other information set to the agenda be received for information. So I make that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Comments by secretary to Board of Variance and staff.
Thank you. So very quickly, I'd like to go around the room and just have everyone provide a brief introduction. If you could just maybe give your name and then maybe followed by your position here today. And we'll start with the Board of Variance members, followed by our applicant and guests, and then we'll move over to staff.
Les Lindote, member of the board.
Rose Turcaso, member of the board.
Paul Sidaway, member of the board.
Of the home that be renovated.
Peter Stallingworth, applicant. Yeah.
Bob Vesely, President Sundorn. Scott Wilkowski, contractor to the applicant.
Mary Gardside, board, Sundorn.
And I'm Glenn Kask, and I'm just a neighbor.
Ray Shipper, planning technician for electoral area planning and development.
I'm Caitlin Hipwell. I'm the manager of planning.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jamie Vaness. I'm the director of legislative services and the corporate officer for the FVRD.
And I'm Lauren Olenek, and I'm the deputy corporate officer for the FVRD. So we are here today for a Board of Variance hearing with respect to number 329053 Shook Road in electoral area G. The applicants are requesting a variance for a structural addition for an extension of the main floor and crawl space and addition of a second story. Ray Shipper will now provide a presentation to the board, and following that, we will open it up for discussion between the board and the applicant.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. Like I said, my name's Ray Shipper. I'm a planning technician for electoral area planning and development. We're gathered here today for the Board of Variance hearing for unit number 329053 Shook Road. The registered property owner is Sundorn Holdings Limited. The applicants today are Peter and Corrine Stellingworth. The property located on Hatzick Island is subject to floodplain regulations in FERD Floodplain Management Bylaw 1669. There are flood construction levels in this area of 10.3 meters GSC, which is 10.3 meters above mean sea level. There's also a 7.5 meter setback from the natural boundary of Hatzick Lake. The official community plan designation is rural, and the zoning designation is rural 4. It's important to note that this proposed construction on this user lot is approximately 4.5 meters below the flood construction level outlined in the floodplain bylaw. As you can see on these maps, the subject property is located on Hatzick Island, just north of the Fraser River in electoral area G. User lot number 32, outlined on the right, is roughly in the middle of this non-conforming parcel. The applicants have made several requests as part of their Board of Variance application. The first component of their application is an extension of the main floor of the existing dwelling. The proposal indicates an increase of up to 25% or 198 square feet. The second component is the extension of the existing crawl space underneath the proposed new addition. That is also approximately 198 square feet. The third component of the application is the addition of a second story that would be used as a storage area and as a loft. These site photos indicate the structure as it existed on February 19th, 2025. As you can see, the interior of the structure has undergone significant deconstruction, and it looks like the property is being prepared for a renovation. The Board of Variance must consider if prohibition of the extension of the main floor and crawl space, along with the addition of a second story, would cause the applicant undue hardship. I'll repeat that. The Board of Variance must consider if prohibition of the structural alterations would cause the applicant's undue hardship. As part of the application, the applicants have provided the following reasons for hardship. The structure does not meet current energy efficiency standards or the modern building code. The occupants have also cited that they require additional space due to lifestyle differences. And it's been noted on the application that the structure has poor aesthetics. If the Board of Variance finds that undue hardship would be caused to the applicant if the Local Government Act is complied with, the Board of Variance must state the exact nature of the hardship for the hearing's record. I'll repeat that. If the Board of Variance finds that undue hardship would be caused to the applicant if Section 531(1) of the Local Government Act is complied with, the Board of Variance must state the exact nature of the hardship for the hearing's record. So there are several considerations that the Board of Variance should make when reviewing this application. The first is if this application results in inappropriate development of the site. The applicants are proposing to use the structure for residential use. They're making no changes to the existing non-conforming use, as they are proposing to use the structure as a single-family dwelling. However, the proposed development only partially meets exemptions in the floodplain management bylaw. The proposed development is approximately 4.5 meters below the flood construction level of 10.3 meters GSC. This application is relying on exemptions in the floodplain management bylaw to meet. This application is relying on exemptions in the floodplain management bylaw in order to permit building. I would like to remind the board that under section 542(2)(d) of the Local Government Act, the Board of Variance cannot alter provisions regulated in a floodplain management bylaw. For example, any construction below 5.2 meters GSC, which is the minimum ponding level, cannot be permitted. There are three components of this application that may or may not meet exemptions of the floodplain management bylaw. The first component of the application is the extension of the existing main floor area. There is an exemption in the bylaw, provided that the addition does not increase the ground floor area by more than 25% at the existing non-conforming ground elevation. The second component of the application is for an addition of the second story above the existing roof. There is also an exemption for this proposed construction. The exemption states that residential use may be extended if the underside of a floor system used for habitation is a minimum of 2.5 meters above the surrounding ground elevation. This would be subject to a restrictive save harmless covenant signed between the property owner and the FVRD. The final component of the application is the crawl space extension. The building plans indicate that the crawl space extension would be approximately 4.97 meters in elevation. This is below the minimum ponding elevation of 5.2 meters. Therefore, based on the floodplain regulations, the crawl space extension would not be permitted. The Board of Variance must consider if the application will affect the natural environment. On Hatzick Island, development without adequate servicing has been shown to impact the natural environment. An expansion of this habitable space may lead to further intensification of the use, which could put further strain on the existing infrastructure, such as the septic and water systems. The Board of Variance must consider if this application substantially affects the use and enjoyment of the adjacent land. All proposed construction is within the boundaries of the user lot. Notification has been sent to property owners within 30 meters of the property. We have currently received one letter from the Sundorn directors and one letter of support from a resident of Sundorn. The Board of Variance must also consider if the application varies permitted uses and density under the applicable bylaws. So this property density is legally non-conforming. Sundorn has 43 user lots, which predate the zoning bylaw regulations. The applicants are not proposing an additional dwelling, secondary suite, accessory dwelling unit. They plan on using the existing dwelling as one residence. Therefore, the proposal does not change or increase this non-conforming density. The Board of Variance should consider if this application defeats the intent of the bylaw. Now, the proposed construction will bring this building to modern standards, significantly extending its life cycle. This defeats the intent of the bylaw which is to gradually reduce non-conforming uses or allow for development of infrastructure capable of supporting these more dense developments. In conclusion, the board may order that the applicant is exempted from Section 531(1) of the Local Government Act if they have heard the applicant and any person notified. They find that undue hardship would be caused to the applicant if the bylaw in Section 531(1) is complied with, and is of the opinion that the variance or exemption does not do any of the topics that I touched on in my previous slides. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions or hear any comments that the board may have.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I've got a couple of questions and I know that Vice Chair here does as well.
Chair Casso, sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Before the board starts asking questions, maybe we'll just give the applicant an opportunity to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Sorry.
We can't ask for clarification.
Sure. If you want to ask for clarification first, and then we'll flip it over to the applicant. And if they'd like to comment, they can. And then we'll also,
Okay.
we have some members of the
So-
public joining us online as well.
So we'll keep the questions specifically to what he made the presentation on. If we have any further questions, we'll address it later.
Sure.
Yes, yeah. I think what we want to accomplish here is we want to ensure that the applicants and anybody online has an opportunity to speak and ask any questions before the Board of Variance makes their deliberation.
Oh yeah, we don't want to do that. No, I think
Fantastic.
I think there's just a few things that were brought up that we were
Absolutely.
just kind of going, maybe he can explain on the second. Actually, I'll go right into Paul has the question. Go ahead, Paul.
We're just uncertain as to understanding the component of application floodplain bylaw regulation, addition to existing main floor of non-conforming dwelling, exemption for an addition to existing non-conforming building at original elevation, provided the addition does not increase the ground floor by more than 25%. And you're saying yes. The addition of a second story above existing roof, exemption for the structural addition if the difference between the 200-year flood construction level and ground elevation exceeds 2.5 meters. A residential use may be extended with the underside of the floor system a minimum of 2.5 meters above surrounding ground elevation. Yes, subject to restricted covenant, but the floodplain, how does that impact with the floodplain? And you know, the possibility of that not, you know, what's the covenant that's going to be on that from the point of view of it?
Yeah, so the flood construction level there is 10.3 meters GSC. The elevation of the applicant's user lot is approximately 5.6 meters. So the difference between the flood construction level and the 200-year flood construction level and the elevation of the property is greater than 2.5 meters. So that exemption applies for any habitable space that they would choose to build 2.5 meters higher than the surrounding elevation. So it would be required that as part of the building permitting process that they would sign a covenant, a save harmless covenant, basically releasing FBRD of any liability for any damage that may be done in a flooding event. So the applicant or the property owner would sign this covenant with the FBRD.
So how does that same thought process work with regards to the lower level of the house?
Like for the main floor?
The main floor, yes.
Okay. So the main floor, we're just looking at it from the exemption in 8A2A, which states that they're only permitted to build up to 25% of the existing floor area. I do not believe, maybe Caitlin can correct me, that we would not require a covenant for an extension of up to 25% of the main floor, which is already at a non-conforming elevation.
And then the crawl space is a no starter.
That is correct.
Okay.
What is Mr. Shipper correct in that a covenant is not required for the main floor, the existing main level living for the additional 25%.
That's correct. So in our floodplain management bylaw, we have a number of exemptions available. And essentially, the exemptions are developed in order to recognize that there is a significant amount of construction throughout the regional district that does not conform to current floodplain management regulations today. And so they give an opportunity for existing homeowners to conduct renovations and improve their properties under the constraints of the current flood construction requirements.
I have a question, but I'm going to wait until after everybody else has had a chance to join in. So now I'm going to offer an opportunity to the applicants to state anything that you would like to advise us as to what you'd like to do with this property and going forward.
Okay, yeah, there's a lot of little details here. But thanks for the opportunity. Just first off the bat, the crawl space is not a necessity. We could put in the wall for the new part, the foundation for that, fill it in with gravel and just have it on slab. I talked to the contractor about that this morning. So I don't want to waste a lot of time trying to figure that one out. We did look at the different options to totally reconstruct the building at a higher level. It wouldn't have the aesthetic appeal that the building could have with the plan that we have. It would cost us probably too much. And the building as it is, we recognize that if we had a flood like 1948, we would have some issues with flooding. And we recognize that. But we do want to preserve the building as it is. It's a bit of an iconic building in the neighborhood, and we have huge support from everybody we've talked to in the neighborhood to keep the building. It's a bit of an eyesore. We think that with the addition and with the sloped roof, it would really enhance the community. And as far as densification, we're not adding to that. It's just me and my wife planning to live there. If you have questions, I think I'll just leave it for if you have any more questions on the lifestyle or the hardship. That's a whole new area. So thanks.
Am I allowed to ask my questions now? Thank you very much. I actually drove out there. It's very unique, that whole area, I must admit. And your location there is definitely very unique to the area, just the way that it sits on the lot and so on and so forth. I guess one question that I do have, because what sticks out to my mind that I'm a little bit concerned with, that maybe can have a little bit of clarification from someone, is where it states that the board cannot approve the minimum ponding elevation under 5.2 meters, and that your request is 4.97. So I'm a little bit concerned about that, but I think the question that I have is the existing foundation, what level is it at now?
The existing foundation is approximately 4.9 meters. I can double check the plans, but it is legally non-conforming. The foundation obviously existed from when it was built prior to the implementation of zoning bylaw. So the existing foundation is once again non-conforming. So unfortunately, you cannot expand the crawl space. You can just leave the one that already exists.
So that's the way. Okay, thank you very much. I was very concerned where it stated that we weren't allowed to to make an approval on that. Are there any other questions for, whether it be for the report or anything that anybody else would like to add from the public? Anything at all?
I'm just a little confused on the ponding level. I look at the foundation here as 5.59. And the ground level at 5.66. And then, yeah, we have a cement wall, the cement wall and the slab underneath. And so the main floor is, the joists are at 6.14 meters. So that seems a little higher than what was reported, I believe. I don't know. I'm trying.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Oh. I guess I just wanted to just, my question was, I'm a bit confused on what the ponding level is.
So the minimum ponding level in the floodplain bylaw is 5.2 meters GSC.
Right.
So the proposed crawl space is below that level. However, the existing structure, I believe, is at the average grade is, I just need to reconfirm, I think it's at 5.68 meters. So the existing structure is above the minimum ponding elevation. It's the crawl space and the proposed crawl space that is below.
Okay, I understand. So my response to that is that the proposed crawl space doesn't have to be a crawl space. It can be a slab, foundation or footings, and then a slab on top of that.
Can I ask what the reason for the proposed crawl space was for? Was that to put the mechanical underneath the house?
Actually, there's no reason for it. It was just because it would just match the rest of the house, but there would be no need for mechanical underneath that. It could be on slab. It would just be a secondary bedroom.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm Glenn Kask and I live at 9055 Shook Road in the same development. I actually built the house that's immediately north of this applicant and did build it to floodplain construction level. So I'm somewhat familiar with these regulations. I've also seem to recall that there are at least 4 similar covenants already on the place, on the parent company. So you might check and see whether those covenants have already been signed away, or whether they have to be for this particular user site. And the other comment I have is that the recently discussed housing need strategy for the regional district, and particularly Area G, suggests that one of the best options is to rehabilitate and improve existing housing stock rather than building new houses to accommodate future needs. So this fits exactly what that housing needs study has suggested.
I'd like to add to that too. I've lived in Sundorn since 2008. I'm currently the president of it. And the house has been empty since then. And you saw pictures of it. It's been that way for quite some time. And we use septic systems in Sundorn. And the fact that there hasn't been a full-time occupant in the home meant that it could have had septic problems. It could fall into disarray even further than it has. And the fact that they want to build upon it, take care of it, and maintain it, I think environmentally that's much more friendly, that it'll be cared for now. Not to mention aesthetically, the neighborhood is excited about it because of the new look, and it is an iconic house, and they do want that to be part of it and have new neighbors. So I have not met any negative, only positive feelings about the property and the way it looks.
I've got a couple questions about the septic fields. As the home is currently on the property, it is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, correct? And the application is to add an additional bathroom. Has the septic field been inspected? Because at that length of time, it's likely getting towards end of life. And does it require approval from the Fraser Valley Health Authority to do the addition?
So, yeah, before we purchased the place, we had the septic tank inspected. They dug down and it was in really good shape. I have a report of that. But I'm aware of the fact that I may have to upgrade it. I'm a little reluctant to, I'd like to do a little bit more research to see whether there's going to be a communal septic thing in the future. I'd have to spend $20,000, $30,000 on something that, changes suddenly. We are talking, I think the region's talking about communal water for the whole island. And we signed a petition on that, or a questionnaire on that. What was the other thing? Septic, I think there was something else. Right now it's 2-bedroom, but one of the bedrooms it's the size of a closet, and we'd like to have that as a main bathroom, and we'd like to have just a pocket bathroom. The reason for that is, first of all, it's a convenience for visitors, that they won't have to go through our bedroom to get to the bathroom. The second thing is that we put down lifestyle, but I'm a truck driver and I get up at 3:30 to catch the ferry to Vancouver Island twice a week. My wife on the same days works from 3 in the afternoon at a home for mentally person with diverse abilities, seniors, and she's not home till 11:30 at night. And if we were in the same room on those 2 days, we'd be disrupting our sleep patterns. And a second bathroom would be a real benefit, just so I can stay on one end of the house and she can stay on the other end. So the other thing is, so we're adding a bedroom on the far end of the house and giving a little bit more room for laundry, for the kitchen, be less crammed, for the kitchen and the living area, which are quite small. The house is under 800 square feet as it is, and with the curve, it needs a little bit of space for compared to a square house. We really want to have a sloped roof because the roof now is so inefficient for heat and everything. It's strong. It'd make a great second story. We would love a loft space up there. I'm an artist, and I'd rather not have a separate art studio. It's more efficient to have it under one roof. And storage. There's no storage in the place as it is. And the second bedroom would come in handy for my wife when she does a lot of Zoom calls for counseling, spiritual direction. So yeah, lifestyle, it could be a great home for us. And as it is now, if we did no structural changes, it would be a lot less costly, but it wouldn't be the house that we would need to live in. So that's a whole bit there.
Great, thank you very much. Are there any other questions? Oh, sorry. You're pointing over to you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. We do have 2 members of the public joining us on Zoom today. And so we'd just like to open up opportunity for anybody attending on Zoom to ask a question or provide a comment. And if any of our viewing members do have a comment or question, they could just hit the raise hand function. And while I allow them to do that, I'll just note that we did receive a second letter of support, and it has been distributed on the table for the Board of Variance's review there. So, and it does look like we have one member, Marge. Let's see here. There we go. I think, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm Vice President of Sundorn Holdings, the director. I've lived there for 20 years. This is an exciting project for the community in terms of just the effect of the aesthetic effects, because it isn't a very corner lot. So it is something that's very prominent when people come through and the neighbors have to look at all times. I think Peter and Corinne have done a wonderful job in setting out their proposal and making the home a home for them, for their specific needs. And like Glenn and Bob have mentioned, the community is behind this 100%. Thank you.
Thank you. And there is one more guest. I'm just open it up here a second time to see if there's any more questions. Just hit the raise hand function. Just give them a moment. And it doesn't look like there's any more questions from our viewing members of the public online. So we can turn it back over to the Board of Variance.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. So now comes to the point where we must discuss what we're going to do with the situation. And we were hoping for a really easy one for our first, but no, it had to be a little bit complicated. I think, we discussed amongst ourselves here. I think we don't have a choice. We can't approve the crawl space, obviously. If you want to do something, we can't even offer options, apparently. Although I'm a woman, I'd love to offer lots of options, but you guys deal with it. We can't approve that. Any thoughts from Paul or from Les about the first two requests in relation to the build, to the second floor, to the covenant, or anything like that? Any discussion there?
And not really. I think that they've expressed themselves pretty well about what the concerns are and what the advantages are for them build.
No further questions from me.
So then let's, I think we'll put the motion out there. I'm used to one always being written up for me, but there's no motion.
So
thank you very much.
I just want to jump in here and just note that we have heard from the applicants what they feel that the nature of the hardship is. And this is subject to the Board of Variance in your decision. And we'd like to hear from the Board of Variance as to what the exact nature of the hardship is that you guys are, that the board is approving it on. Based on.
So would you like me to like us to verbalize that in the motion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
It's going to be long-winded.
Can we do that with this?
Yeah. Well, I think we're gonna have to make the motion to reflect also the crawl space. Do we not?
Yes.
Yeah, of course. So because they're asking for three things, and unfortunately we can't give a third thing. But because as you saw, we're not allowed to do that. So that's out of our hands, but we can discuss the first two options, the two requests. And so I guess what we'll do is we'll think about a motion that reflects the first two requests. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the components of the application that call for the addition to the existing main floor of non-conforming dwelling of 198 square feet, 25% of the existing floor area, and also approve the addition of a second story above existing roof, 362 square feet, with subject to a restrictive covenant that we deny because we are not permitted to approve the crawl space extension of 198 square feet that is proposed at 4.97 meters GSC, because it falls below the approval amount of 5.2 meters GSC that we are not permitted to approve. The reason for hardship is stated in the three requests here in relation to the current building would now meet with the current energy efficiency and building code standards, that it would afford an opportunity for the occupants to have additional space due to their lifestyle differences. And also primarily the structure does have poor aesthetics, which approving these two requests would afford for the upgrading and the beautification of Hatzick Lake. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Carried. So that has been approved, and I guess, well, is there
Right.
anything else, or do I want me to adjourn the meeting?
Yeah, that's it. Just a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to, motion out there to adjourn. Did you want to make the motion to adjourn?
Like to make a motion to adjourn?
You want to second it, Paul?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. That's the end of the meeting.
Thank you very much.
They should never, it was about, you cannot approve. And so I read them.